Hi, my name's Vince Sheehan, and today I'd like to talk about Howl's Moving Castle, the animated Studio Ghibli movie from 2004, produced by Toshio Suzuki and directed by Hayao Miyazaki. And the story's based on a children's novel by Diana Wynne Jones. Now, I suppose if you could sum up this film in a sentence, what it's essentially about, you could say something like the forging of peace, love and companionship amidst war and spiritual evil. And you can break the story up, certainly the film up, into 4 acts. In the first act, we're introduced to Sophie. Sophie is a young woman who works in a hat shop, her mother's hat shop, and one day she's walking to her sister's through the town, and she is accosted by these 2 soldiers who are kind of making unwelcome advances towards her. Then she's rescued by this mysterious figure with blonde hair, a very handsome young man, who takes her and they fly up into the air. And this is Howl, Howl as in the title of the film, Howl's Moving Castle. Howl lives in this big, dilapidated but nonetheless impressive lumbering machine on these legs, which is his moving castle. Once Sophie's visited her sister, she goes back to the hat shop, but she's visited by the Witch of the Waste, this rather grotesque looking older lady, and accompanied by her demons, and she puts a curse on Sophie. Sophie is now old. She's aged to this elderly woman. She looks like an elderly woman, and she can't tell anyone about the curse. When she tries, her mouth just won't open. So Act 1 is all about this spell put on Sophie and Sophie's first encounter with Howl. Act 2 is about this unlikely family which travel around in Howl's moving castle. Sophie leaves home in her old persona under this curse, under this spell. On the way she meets this scarecrow who she frees from this bush. She writes him and he becomes a loyal friend, and she asks the scarecrow, is there somewhere for her to stay? And the scarecrow then summons Howl's moving castle. Sophie comes on board and she meets this fire demon called Calcifer, who's keeping the whole castle going. He is very much provides the energy for everything going on in this castle. It seems Calcifer knows that Sophie's under some kind of curse, but he is as well. And so both Sophie and Calcifer have got this thing in common where they both need to be freed of this curse. So they kind of make a deal to help each other. We're then introduced to a little boy called Markle. And Markle is very much the public front of Howl's Moving Castle. There's this remarkable portal door on the castle, this moving castle, and depending on where they flip the dial, they're in a different land. And it appears that 2 of the places they can go to are at war with each other. And this boy Markle dons a beard and he is the public front of this castle. People seem to want to give information or deliver notes to this wizard called Jenkins, and he's also called Pendragon, depending on where they are. It's essentially Howl, but the different personas of Howl. Howl seems to be known across this land, but under differing guises depending on who he's working with. And Howl seems to be summoned to fight on both sides of this war which seems to be ravaging this land. Sure enough, Howl comes back, they have breakfast. Sophie cleans up the place. It was filthy, but you know, she kind of gives it a spring clean, including tidying up Calcifer's hearth. And the castle moves to this peaceful lake where this unlikely group of characters find some kind of peace and rest. Howl, however, is out fighting, and he grows these wings when he's fighting, and he comes back exhausted. Act 3 then is really about this war which is taking place and about Howl's involvement in this war. As Sophie and Markle go to buy some food from the market, this broken warship comes back to dock. All the sailors jump out into the river in relief, but then this bomb explodes over the town, and all this propaganda flies down. Howl, though, isn't too bothered about this. He's more bothered with the fact that Sophie has messed up his bottles of hair dye, and he's dyed his hair orange, and he's devastated. He seems to be extremely vain, Howl, and he goes into a real tantrum and a sulk, and physically he begins to turn into slime. He eventually cheers up with Sophie's help, and Howl is summoned to the King's Palace. And in the King's Palace there's this witch called Madame Suleiman, and she seems to be very much in control. Howl is summoned there, but he's too scared to go there. Madame Suleiman was his teacher, and he left in some disgrace, it seems. But anyway, Howl, under the guise of Pendragon, says, "Why don't you go instead to Sophie? You can pretend to be my mother." So Sophie goes off, and Howl says that he'll accompany her, but disguised. So Sophie goes off, and nearer the palace, as she approaches the palace, this little dog comes next to her, whom she thinks is Howl in disguise. And then the Witch of the Waste turns up, and they're both trying to get up these stairs. Sophie's okay with it, but the witch really struggles, and the witch eventually gets to the top. And the witch is tricked. She's an enemy of the palace, and she's trapped, and she's forced to endure this kind of torture. The witch is never the same again after this. Sophie is then brought before Madame Suleiman, and she's this formidable lady who seems to wield immense power, not for good purposes either. She seems to be stoking this war. Howl then turns up in disguise as the king. His disguise is rumbled, and Madame Suleiman tries to trap Howl, Sophie and the Witch of the Waste in the palace. But they manage to escape, and then they're chased back to the castle by Madame Suleiman's evil spirits and henchmen. Howl then lies injured, wrapped up in his feathers, in his bird form, in his cave. Then Act 4 brings the film to its conclusion. Howl, in a better mood, changes the castle. He gives it a complete facelift. All the rooms change, everything's tidy and clean. And one of the destinations on the portal has changed as well. Now it goes to this secret garden, this place of tranquility and peace. It's an old house where Howl used to spend his time as a boy. Howl and Sophie have another dangerous encounter with these bombs on this plane, but then their new place is found out by Sophie's mum, who is employed as a spy by Madame Suleiman. So now Howl and Sophie's whereabouts are known. That puts them in great danger, and sure enough, a bomb is aimed at the castle, but it's stopped just in time by Howl. The castle then kind of collapses in on itself. Calcifer manages to change the kind of dimensions of the castle in a much more streamlined way. But then as they flee in this new castle, the witch grabs Calcifer, which she believes is Howl's heart, because the witch is in love with Howl. It's an unrequited love, the witch of the waste. She takes Calcifer, and that causes this new version of the castle to completely crumble into nothingness. It seems all is lost. But then Sophie manages to transport herself back to this place of tranquility, where this Howl's house in the countryside when he was a young boy, and she witnesses Howl. The moment a star falls and he catches the star, which is Calcifer, and he swallows the star, and that's where Calcifer comes into Howl's heart. And she sees the moment of Howl's enchantment, or the spell he's under, and Calcifer as well, of course. And she says she'll be back. And of course that is what happened when Howl grows up. He does see Sophie in this kind of weird paradox. By now the whole group are kind of stranded in these rocks. Howl looks like he's about to die, but then Sophie kisses him, and it seems the kiss makes everything right. Sophie seems to break the curse on everybody through this kiss. The Scarecrow turns into a man who was in love with Sophie, but he now understands that Sophie's in love with Howl, and he's kind of able to get on with his life. Calcifer's freed. He shoots off in joy and freedom, but then he comes back again because he wants to be with the others. The witch, who is by now this kind of incredibly decrepit being, she's still there, and Howl and Sophie are very much in love, and they have the whole of their lives together in front of them. And even Madame Suleiman then, seeing this through the eyes of her dog, who has stayed as a companion with the others, she agrees to stop the war. And there's a happy ending. So Howl's Moving Castle is such an amazing film in many ways. And number one, perhaps the easiest thing to say about it is it's incredibly beautiful visually. The animation is just superb. And whenever I watch this film, quite often I just pause the picture just to see how delightfully intricate the animation is. For instance, in one of the towns in this film, there's trams and there's people going about their business, and it's just all of human life is there in these pictures. You just pause it, you can see people in the distance, and everything's so detailed and just wonderful. You can just focus on one area of the screen. There's so much life going on there. It's just marvellous. Visually, it's just marvellous. And then Howl's bedroom, it's just filled with wonderful images and strange signs and objets d'art on his walls, and then into his cave with all these toys sticking out. It's just such a delight for the senses, this film. So that's the first thing. It's just visually so impressive. The second thing is some of the themes that crop up in here, I think, really hit home in the human heart. The idea of family. Sophie finds a new family, her true family, which are the people on board Howl's Moving Castle. Howl, Calcifer, Markle, even the Witch of the Waste as well, and the dog, the Scarecrow Turnip Head. They become this family, and they all need each other, and they all rely on each other, and they all forgive each other, and they all work through things together. A very powerful theme, the idea that when people come together in love, all kinds of things can be overcome. So that's one of the central themes, I think, in this film, the idea of family. And of course, with that love in all its guises, unrequited love, the suffering that comes with love, the kind of dark side of love, I suppose, if you'd like, jealousy as well, which springs from unrequited love or frustrated love. But then the love of the family, as I said, and then romantic love between Howl and Sophie. Love of people who have caused you harm even. The Witch of the Waste. She's really messed up Sophie's life purely because she's jealous, basically, I think. But Sophie reacts in such a way that she tries to bring the Witch of the Waste into the orbit of family love. She kind of treats the witch in such a loving way despite what the witch has done to her. And it's a very deep spiritual message there, which really lingers long, I think, after you've watched the film. And the last thing I want to say, the film just has this wonderful sense, this kind of mysterious, dreamlike quality. It's very difficult to really get to grips about the film, what it's really about, on one sitting. It takes a few watches and re-watches of this marvellously rich film to kind of get an idea about what's going on in terms of what it's really about. It's so rewarding, and it doesn't just lay everything down black and white for us to understand. It requires some thinking, some reflection about how the characters are really interacting in this story, and you know, these themes that crop up, what do they really mean? How do they relate to each other? Part of the genius of this film is it doesn't lay everything down for us. We've kind of got to make a bit of a leap ourselves to really appreciate this wonderful film. There's certainly a mystical heart to this film, and I think that's what makes it really powerful. I haven't read the original novel by Diana Wynne Jones, but I understand the film's significantly different. But I have to say, if you haven't seen this, please watch it. It's a great film, and a very moving film, and if you haven't seen it for a while, watch it again. It's just really great. Thanks for watching. Bye.